correctly. Should I just go? Should I check it? I probably should check it, but I feel like it's fine. It's fine. Hey besties, and welcome to my 2025 book awards. I've been seeing people all over YouTube do their like book awards where they give out their awards for like their favorite book, their least favorite book, and everything in between, and I was like, oh my gosh, that looks so fun. I'm gonna do it. So I did it. I put together my little list. I watched a couple of videos to try and like figure out what I wanted my categories to be, which I'll link in the description, like a queen who cites her sources. And yeah, so these categories are in like no particular order. I just kind of like wrote them down, and I kind of tried to order them so it wasn't like super random, but it really is just random. And yeah, each category has ranging from 2 to like 6 books in it as nominees, because I will go over all my nominees for each category and then tell you the winner. Yeah, should I scoot over? Okay, I moved because I realized that I wanted a blank section where I can put the books as I read out their names, so you know what books I'm talking about and you can look at their covers and stuff. But yeah, I guess we'll just get right into it. I read 69 books this year, the better funny number, and as of the day I'm filming this is December 30th, but I'm currently in the middle of like 4 books, and there's no chance of me finishing them before the new year because I'm busy tomorrow, so I probably won't read very much. So I've officially read 69 books in the year 2025, very good number, I think. And yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 categories. So yeah, let's just get right into it. My first category is biggest surprise. So this is a book that I did not expect to like, or maybe that I just kind of picked up on a whim and read and like didn't expect to like it that much. My nominees for this are The Martian by Andy Weir, which I have read Project Hail Mary and I love that book, but I for some reason wasn't expecting The Martian to be as good, but I ended up giving it 5 stars. So I was like, I did not expect this to be a 5-star book. That was crazy and I loved it. My next nomination is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young, which I did not know it was a time travel book, and I usually hate time travel books, but I was very surprised to learn that I actually really enjoyed this book. So that's where the surprise comes in with that one. I usually hate time travel stories, but I really liked this one, even though it was really confusing and I don't get it, but I still liked it. So that was very surprising. And then the last book that was a big surprise was Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I read this because it was part of the Inklings book club. It was Inklings book club pick for this month, December. And I wasn't gonna read it because I read the first 3 and I liked all of them, but I was like, Hamnet doesn't sound that great. I don't really want to read it. But then like on a random day I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start listening to the audiobook. And I loved that book and it was super good and I did not expect to like it as much as I did. It's my favorite Inklings book club pick so far. So I'm very glad that I picked it up, but I definitely wasn't planning to initially. So yeah, those are my 3 nominees for this category. Did I put them up here? Did editing me put the covers up here so you can see my nominees? Okay, the winner for biggest surprise of 2025 goes to Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Because I just I literally thought in my brain, I'm not gonna read that book, I'll skip that one and like read the next Inklings book club pick so I can read some other books that I've been wanting to read. But then I picked it up randomly and loved it. So very grateful that I did. I listened to it and the audiobook is amazing. But that's actually a different category later on, so we will talk about that when we get there. Okay, so my next category is best prose / like best writing, prettiest writing, I don't know, in my opinion. All these are in my opinion, this is all very subjective. So if you have a different opinion than me, that's great, and I love that for you. But in my opinion, I have 3 nominees again for this category. The 3 books I read with the prettiest writing this year were Orbital by Samantha Harvey, which is a no plot, just vibes book with like the prettiest descriptions of like space and the earth I've ever read. And I adored it. I gave it 5 stars. But yeah, it was Galgina. It was gorge. It was a very beautiful book and I loved it. My next book for this category is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, because the writing was just super pretty and I just, it was just so good. I love that book. Anyway, and then my third and final nominee for this category is Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna, which was the first Inklings Book Club pick. And I just loved the descriptions in that book. It was just so delectable. It was just like, it's so good. I loved it. Anyway, I really enjoyed that book as well, and I really liked the writing. But if I had to pick one to be the winner for 2025 of the prettiest writing or best prose, in my opinion, it would be Orbital by Samantha Harvey, because like the entire appeal of that book is just the pretty writing. Like, no one reads that book for the plot. You know why? Because there is no plot, and I have no problem with that because of how beautiful the writing is. And I highlighted that book, so I was like highlighting lines, but most of my highlights were actually just like me bracketing entire pages because like it was just all beautiful. Anyway, highly recommend. It did win the 2024 Booker, so yeah, highly recommend. Now on to books that I don't highly recommend, because our next category is Biggest Disappointment, and I only have 2 nominees for this category because I actually enjoyed a majority of the books that I read this year, and even the books that I didn't like that much were more mid than they were bad. There were only 2 books that I like actively didn't like, or I guess not didn't like. It's biggest disappointment, so like books that I had high hopes for, but then they did not meet those high hopes. So my 2 books for the biggest disappointment category is The Ministry of Time by Kaylee Ann Bradley, which please don't come for me. I know so many people love that book, but what did I just say? I just said I don't like time travel stories, but I had really high hopes for it because so many people loved it, and I was like, okay, it must be so good. And then the premise was like, oh my gosh, wait, that's awesome. And then I read it and I didn't enjoy it, and then I was like, oh, I had high hopes for this book, and I was disappointed by the fact that I didn't like it. And then my next nominee is Into the Sunken City by Dinesh Tiru. Also thought the premise was super awesome and amazing, and I was really excited to read it, even though, okay, so the way I found out about this book is I was watching one of Carrie Coon Reed's reading wrap-up videos where she talked about this book, and she talked about how the premise seemed super cool, but then she read it and she didn't enjoy the book, and then she told me what the premise was, and I was like, okay, Carrie, I know you didn't like it, but I'm gonna read it because that premise sounds amazing and sounds so awesome. And I think, maybe, what if I like it? What if it's super good? No, Carrie was right. It wasn't very good, which is so sad because the premise really is super awesome. But yeah, those are my 2 nominees for biggest disappointment. So not worst book of the year, just books I had high hopes for, but I was disappointed by. And the award for this one goes to Into the Sunken City, because I just thought that the premise was super cool, even though it literally wasn't hyped up at all. In fact, it was downplayed by people telling me not to read it, and I read it anyway, and I guess I should have listened to them, but oh well. So very sad, but you know, it happens to the best of us. My next category is favorite new author, and what I mean by new author is an author I read for the first time this year. So because I was gonna include authors whose books I read this year, but whose previous works I had read. Like, I was gonna include like Suzanne Collins in this because I read Summers on the Reaping this year, but I was like, that's not fair because I've read the entire Hunger Games trilogy and I really love them, but I didn't read them this year, and this is the 2025 Book Awards, so I decided to do authors that I read for the first time this year, and these are just authors that I really want to read more of their books because I really liked the 1 or 2 that I read, and so yeah. And those authors are Alex E. Harrow, Taylor Jenkins Reid, and Adrienne Young. And I read, what did I read? I read A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow, which is a short story, but I really enjoyed it and I really liked the writing, so I really want to read more of Alex E. Harrow's works. And then I read 2 Taylor Jenkins Reid books. I read Daisy Jones and the Six, and I read Atmosphere, and I really liked both of those books. And then I read my first Adrian Young book, which is, of course, The Unmaking of June Farrow, which I previously talked about in this video. So those are my favorite new authors that I read for the first time this year. But if I had to pick a favorite of those three, I would pick Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's a little unfair because I read 2 TJR books and I only read 1 book from both of the other authors. But also one of the Taylor Jenkins Reid books I read this year was a 5-star read. So, like, you can't really beat a 5-star read. It was super good. So yeah, award for favorite new author goes to Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I would love to read more of her books in 2026. Okay, the next one is prettiest cover. So this is just based on the cover. It has nothing to do with the actual contents of the book, whether I liked the book or hated the book. It's just how pretty the cover is. And I have 5 nominees for this category, but only 1 winner, but 5 nominees. And then I'll put up the covers so you can see them and judge for yourself which one's your favorite of these 5 that I think were the prettiest of the ones I read this year. So the first one is Orbital by Samantha Harvey, because just look at that cover. It's so good. It's so pretty. Anyway, the next one is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I just love the atmosphere of it, and like it's kind of like shimmery on the sides and just it's so good. Anyway, I like that cover too. The next one is Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft. I really like this cover, and I like the fact that like when you go onto the back, there's more art of Lord Mallory on the back. Oof, so pretty. I loved it so much. Yeah, I love that cover. My next cover is A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy I. Lin. I just really like it. It's just really pretty. What can I say? I don't really know what to say about it. It's all swirly and cool looking. I like the colors. I don't really know how to be descriptive, especially since I'm not actually looking at it right now. I'm just trying to remember what it looks like. So don't come for me. And then the last one I have on here is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrian Young, because it's so, I don't know what it is. It's literally just like a sky, but like the shimmeriness to it is so good, and it fits the vibe of the book really well. I don't know. I really liked that cover. But if I'd pick a favorite, prettiest cover, I would pick Orbital by Samantha Harvey, which has already won, best writing. So that's 2 awards that this book has won. But the cover doesn't really have anything to do with the actual contents of the book. I just think it looks really pretty. So I gave that one the prettiest cover award. Let's see. My most anticipated read. So a book that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this book to come out. I can't wait to read it. I'm so excited. Blah, 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 blah. That I was like anticipating the most. This isn't, I don't know, I guess my enjoyment of the book kind of did impact the one I picked as a winner, but I tried to pick it based on like the one I was most excited to read. But the one that I was most excited to read, I think, is also my highest rated one on here. So, but they are Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, and now I'm also very excited for the movie, but also like terrified because like, who wants to watch that? Not me, but also me. Sign me up. I want to watch it. Anyway, the next one is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. When I heard about this book for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna read that book. And then I went to like get it, and I was like, oh, it doesn't come out until 2025. And so I was like, man, I have to wait for it. But I really enjoyed that book also, and it was a very highly anticipated read for me. And then my last anticipated read was Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft, because I love Secret of the Wings, and when I heard that they were making a standalone book about the love story between Queen Clarion and Lord Mallory, I was all over that. I was eating that up. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I did read the book, and I did enjoy it. I don't think I loved it. I didn't like love it, but I liked it, and it was pretty good in my opinion from what I can remember. So yeah, highly recommend if you really like Secret of the Wings, because I did enjoy that book. But my most anticipated read out of all these, even though I was really excited to read all of them, was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Are we surprised? No, we are not. Literally, who's surprised? In every single like video I watched to get ideas for Um, my categories, Sunrise on the Reaping was mentioned by like all of the booktubers I watched, and I think it won like a lot of their like most anticipated sections. So I guess we all were just really, really, really excited for Sunrise on the Reaping. Which I love. I love the Hunger Games Renaissance that comes around when we get a new book or movie. I live for it. Anyway, my next category is favorite fiction book. And there's 6 nominees in this category, and I'll just list them really fast. The first one is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The second one is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. The third one is The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. The fourth one is The Martian by Andy Weir. The fifth one is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And the sixth one is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. And I hate picking favorites. I don't want to pick a single favorite because they're all my favorite in their own way. And I gave all of them 5 stars, except for the favorites. I gave that one 4.75 stars. Don't ask me why. If I'm giving a book 5 stars, it just has to have a certain je ne sais quoi. And, you know, I don't know what the je ne sais quoi is, obviously. So I gave that one 4.75 stars, but I still adored it. It just didn't have that extra life-changing message or something. I don't really know what it is that makes me give a book 5 stars. It's just a feeling. It's just a gut feeling, you know, that I gotta give this book 5 stars. But it felt wrong to not include it because of how much I adored it. So these are my 6 nominees, and I adored all of them, and I'm letting all of them win favorite fiction book because this is my video and my awards, and I can do whatever I want. I don't have to pick one. I can pick multiple. And so for this one, I picked 6. So yeah, all 6 of these were my favorite fiction books of the year. I absolutely adored every single one of these. Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I listened to, and it was amazing. I read it in like 3 days because I was kind of in a reading slump, and I was like, I need a new book, and I was really wanting to read Atmosphere, and I'm so glad I did because I loved it. It was so good. The Favorites by Lane Fargo I also listened to, and I was obsessed with, because first of all, I take figure skating lessons, or I took figure skating lessons. It's been like a few months, but and so reading a book about ice dancing was super fun for me, and just the drama was crazy, and like all the toxicity, I ate it up, and I loved it. Loved it. The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane is so special. It's just a special book. The last time I actually read it was in 4th grade when my 4th grade teacher read it to like the entire class, and then I did watch the play of it because my high school did a 1 act of it, and so I was like, I just gotta reread it, and so I did, and it was super good, and it has such a good message, and it's just so good. The Martian by Andy Weir, which I mentioned, I didn't expect to be a 5 stars, but it was, and I don't know, it just was like, I learned so much from like the science, and Andy Weir does sci-fi so well because it all feels like real science. It's like, oh yeah, that's real. It's not, but like, of course it is. Because the way he just writes it is just so realistic and so good. So good. The Handmaid's Tale, this was the first book that, well, not the first book, but like, I annotated this book and tried to like analyze it as I went along, and I don't do that with very many books, but I was like, this is a book where I feel like I need to like analyze it, and so I took my sweet time reading that book, and I'm very glad I did because I got so much out of it. I remember because I was reading it while I was filming another video, and so I was like not timing myself, but I was like, you know, paying attention to the time for my video that I was doing, and I took like an hour or 2 hours to read like 30 pages of that book because I was like constantly highlighting and writing my thoughts and like doing analysis of the book, and that was just such a fun experience, and I'm really glad I did it. And I also buddy read it with my best friend, and then we had a little book club and talked about it and how amazing it was. So yeah, I really liked that book. And then my last book is Orbital by Samantha Harvey, which I already talked about, how it's just like the writing was so beautiful and descriptions of the earth and of space were so beautiful, and so I just gave it 5 stars because I was like, that was just gorgeous. It was just gorgeous. So yeah, those were all my favorite fiction books of this year. Highly recommend all of them. And yeah, 3 of them are space related, so I guess I was just on a space book kick this year. I guess I just like space books, and I do like space books, but like 3 of my 5-star reads are all space books. Crazy. Anyway, moving on to favorite nonfiction book. I only read 3 nonfiction books this year. I thought I read more. I thought I read like 5 or something, but then when I went on Storygraph to like see, it turns out I've only read 3, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess I've only read 3. So my goal for 2026 is to read more nonfiction books, and I'm actually currently reading a nonfiction book. I won't finish it by the end of this year because I'm not even halfway through it, but it's This Way Up by the Map Men, and I'm currently reading it, and I like it a lot because I'm a geography major, and so I really like maps. And so yeah, I'm having a great time with that book currently, but that will end up being a like January 2026 read. So stay tuned for the 2026 book awards because it might win. Who knows? It might win something. But my favorite nonfiction of this year, my 3 nonfiction books that I read, I did enjoy all of them. So, because if there was one I hated, I wouldn't put it as a nominee. Luckily, I enjoyed all of them. So the first nonfiction book I have on here is Grandma Gatewood's Walk by Ben Montgomery, which I read for my book club that I'm in. And I enjoyed it. I really liked learning about the Appalachian Trail and like, you know, just Grandma Gatewood and how she was super cool and awesome. And sometimes I think about like a line from that book, or not a line, but just like a general theme from that book of like just walking and like how walking is like so good for you and like is actually the best. And like if you ever have any problems, just walk, go for a walk. And I think about that all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm so bored. I'm like, I should go for a walk. And I should walk just like Grandma Gatewood walked. So yeah, I liked that book. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about it. The next book is The Extreme Life of the Sea by Stephen and Anthony Palumbi, which I bought at the Monterey Bay Aquarium when I went with my friends. Because, you know, after a day of walking around seeing all the animals, I saw this book that's all about sea life and just like fun facts about, you know, the most extreme life of the sea. And I thought it was really interesting, so I picked it up and read it. And it took me like 3 months. This book is like 173 pages, less than 200 pages. It's very short, and it took me like 3 months to read. Because I just, like, I did like it. Don't get me wrong, I did like it, but it was also in the middle of the semester, so I was like such a slow reader of nonfiction because, like, I had to read nonfiction as homework, so I wasn't about to read more nonfiction to relax from reading all that nonfiction textbooks that I had to read. Anyway, but it was still really interesting. I really liked that each chapter was about like a different aspect of extreme life. Like they had like, oh, the coldest, the deepest, the largest, the smallest, and like all the different extremes that you can go to. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting, even though it took me a million years to read. And then the last book I have for my favorite nonfiction is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, which was in my most anticipated category. And it was my favorite nonfiction book of the year. I just thought it was super well done. I had a little book club with some of my friends about it, and we talked about it, and it was really good. I listened to it also, and I think John Green did a great job narrating it. And I think he did a great job of like tying, like, you know, this big huge problem of tuberculosis in the world and tying it to Henry's story and making you care for, you know, this one person, and then saying, okay, you care for this one person, now multiply that by all the people in the world who have tuberculosis and are suffering from it. And so I just think he did a really great job, like storytelling wise, and then also it was just really fascinating to learn about. So yeah, that was my favorite nonfiction book of this year, and goal is to read more. I really want to read the Anthropocene Reviewed next year. That's going to be one of my 2026 nonfiction books. Okie dokie. Next up is least favorite. So this is different from biggest disappointment because those 2 books, I didn't enjoy them, but that category was about how I had high expectations for them and I didn't enjoy them. Least favorite is about just my general least favorite, and there are 3 books in this category. The first one is Sky Raiders by Brandon Mull, which is the first book in the Five Kingdoms series. Here's the thing. I really liked the first half, and I really hated the second half for some reason, and then that just kind of averaged out to being like a really mid book, but every time I think about it, I have negative feelings, so I put it in my least favorite book nominations. The next one is The Ministry of Time by Kaylee Ann Bradley. Again, the like I really thought I was gonna like it, but just it's just the time travel, man. It was so confusing. Like the ending, what even happened? I was so confused, and I finished the book, and I was like, I'm just confused. I don't even understand what happened. I don't understand how time travel works. I don't understand what happened. I didn't really like the romance. I mean, the romance isn't really a essential part, or is it? See, I can't even remember. But like, I don't know. I was so confused by that book that I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy being confused the whole time. And then the third one is, you can guess what it is. It's Into the Sunken City by Dinesh Tiru. Because I thought it was boring. Sorry. I thought it was kind of boring. And yeah, the plot didn't go like where I expected it to. Not that that's bad, but like I didn't like where it went. I don't know. Point is, I didn't really enjoy any of these books, but my least favorite of the year was unfortunately The Ministry of Time. Don't come for me. I just was so confused by it and I didn't get it at all. Sorry. um, but you know, that might be partly my fault because I just any time travel book I read I'm endlessly confused by. I've yet to read a time travel book that I understood fully. Even The Unmaking of Dune Pharaoh, which I liked, I finished and I was still confused about how the time travel worked, but I liked it enough to like not care that much about it. I don't know. Anyway, so we had favorite, least favorite, and now we're going to most mid. So these are the most mid books I read this year. Like, I just meh. Meh. I don't have any other word than that. They're just meh. The first one is The Thief by Megan Whalen Turner. I read this book for my book club, and I feel bad because someone in my book club recommended it, saying it's like her favorite book series of all time, and I read it, and I was like, I didn't like it that much. Because it was just so boring. So boring. Sorry. It was really boring. But then like the end, there was like this cool part at the end, and there was like this cool twist at the end that I liked. So like there were parts I didn't like and the parts I did like, and they just kind of meshed together to be mid. Kind of like Sky Raiders by Brandon Mull, but I don't know. I put this one in most mid because I have less negative feelings about it, I feel. And it was fine. The next one is a book I just finished recently, also for my book club. The Christmas Joyride by Melody Carlson. Very mid. It's about, like, I totally thought that the story was going to be like Joy takes Miranda on a road trip because Miranda is a Grinch and she needs to learn the true meaning of Christmas. But she was like perfectly happy the whole time, and I feel like she didn't change at all. There was like no character arc. I don't know. Like, she says that she's Grinchy. She's like, oh, you know me, I'm such a Grinch. But then like they start going on this like Christmas road trip to help people, and the entire time she's so happy. She's like, wow, I'm so glad that we did that. We stopped by and we helped those people. Like, oh my gosh, you're such a good person for doing this, Joy. Like, I'm sorry, where's the character growth? Because she's like that at the end too. By the end, she's like, wow, I'm so glad that I went on this trip and helped all these people. And I'm like, that was your attitude at the beginning of the book. And it was perfectly fine. It was very inoffensive, perfectly good book. Just very mid. Just, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was fine. But again, like, what even happened? And then the third book I have on here for most mid is A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy I. Lin. I did enjoy this duology. I just thought it was kind of boring. See, all these books I just thought were kind of boring. That's because that's what makes them mid, I guess. They're just all kind of boring. I don't remember a lot about this book. Yeah, I liked the second book ever so slightly better. I think I gave this book 3 stars, and I gave the next book 3.25 stars. So overall, I'd give the duology 3 stars. Very fine. But the most mid book I read this year was The Christmas Joyride by Melody Carlson. Yeah. Very mid. Meh. Okay, my next category I call a gasp and a gog, because these are books that had me a gasp and a gog. And I looked at the definition, and a gasp means in a state of gasping, and agog means like really wanting to know what happens next, kind of is like what I understood the definition to be. So these are books that had me going, what? Like when I was reading them, I was like reacting physically and like freaking out and like writing my thoughts down every 2 pages because I love to write my thoughts down when I read books. And so if you go on my story graph, you'll just be scrolling forever because I wrote down like a full paragraph of thoughts every like 2 pages because I was obsessed with these books and like going crazy over them. The first one is that I have 5 nominees for this category. And my first nominee is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. Because the first 400 pages took me forever to get through, but the last 200 pages took me like a week to get through, which is really fast because, again, it was during the semester when I read it, and so I was hardly reading. But the last like 200 pages of that book were crazy, and I was like freaking out. It was awesome. My next book that I have is Time Jumpers by Brandon Mull, which is the last book in the Five Kingdoms series. I know I didn't like the first book, and I didn't really like the second or third books either, but I loved and I ate up the fourth and fifth books. So it was crazy. Like, if you were to make it a graph of how much I liked the books, it would go like first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So highly recommend the last 2 books of that series, but unfortunately to get to the last 2 books of that series, you have to read the first 3. But I was like, oh my gosh, the twists in that book and like the things that happen were crazy, and I was freaking out, and I was listening to it in my car. So I was just like screaming in my car alone about this book.
What? Cole asked. Trillion. Tomorrow's
Frick!
senses will
No!
Your memories are not genuine, Cole.
No!
You like the real ones back.
Oh, I'm so mad! I'm so mad! That was the only chance! Well, chat, we're cooked. We're losing. There's literally no way to beat him now. That was the only chance we had! Why didn't we think of that? Why didn't we think of that? Why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I see this coming? Oh no!
But it was so good. And like, books are just so fun when they make you just react like that. So very fun. I really liked this book, and the epilogue made me cry. I cried over this book because the epilogue was so sad. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I cannot believe that's how this book ends, but it's also so perfect, but also it's so sad. Anyway, my next one is Chasing the Prophecy by Brandon Mull as well. This is the 3rd book in the Beyonders trilogy, which I love. It's such a good trilogy. And this book, I was basically the same way as I was with Time Jumpers. I was freaking out. I listened to it, so I was like screaming in my car like the entire second half of the book. I was like, I literally had to pull over just to like type out my thoughts because I was like, I cannot go another second listening to this book without typing out what I think right now in this moment. And so if you look at my story graph, you'll just be scrolling forever about my thoughts on this book because it was crazy and I loved it. I had such a good time listening to it, and just like being a gasp and agog. My next one was Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson, and this book was really unique, and I really enjoyed it because it's about a character solving her own murder. And the last like little bit of this book I was reading, and I was like, I was like gasping all the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, what? So yeah, I put that one on here because it's just so good, and it had me quite a gasp. And then my last one on here is Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. This one's less a gasp and more agog because I was super hooked the whole time, but it was also a gasp because there were so many cool like reveals in there, and you're like, what? But I just really want to know what happened next, and I was like, oh my gosh, this book's crazy. And I really enjoyed that book as well. So I highly recommend all of these books, but the one that had me the most agasp, the most agog, was Chasing the Prophecy by Brandon Mull. Very closely followed by Time Jumpers by Brandon Mull. I don't know what it is about Brandon Mull and his like final books in series, but they are crazy and I love them. But yeah, Chasing the Prophecy was my most what? Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what happens next book. So okay, two more categories. We're almost done, guys. The next category is favorite audiobook, because I listened to roughly a third of the books I read this year. I think I love audiobooks, especially when the narrator is super good. Ugh, love it. So I have 3 things, all of which are books I have already mentioned in this video. So the first one is Hamnet, the second one's Atmosphere, and the third one is The Favorites. And I loved all of these. I loved all their narrators. They're just so good. Elle Potter narrated Hamnet, or at least the version I read, because I think there's a new version out now that's narrated by the person who plays Agnes in the movie, which I have not seen, really need to see it, but I listened to the one narrated by Elle Potter, and her voice is so soothing, and I was like, I want to like fall asleep to this because her voice is so nice and so pretty, and I just love it. It was amazing. And then who narrates Atmosphere? Atmosphere was narrated by Kristen D. Mercurio and Queen Julia Whalen, who is like probably the most well-known audiobook narrator, at least on like Book Talk and BookTube. I feel like everyone knows who she is because she narrates like all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books and all of Emily Henry's books. She just narrates really popular books. But like she's also really good at it. And I really loved her performance, and I also loved Kristen's performance as well. I thought they both did really good. And just like the emotion that she put in the voice, like when I was listening to like the very last scene in this book, and like, oh my gosh, the emotion that she was able to like put into her acting was crazy, and I was all over it. It was so good. Okay, and then my last one for favorite audiobook is The Favorites, which I mentioned, which is narrated by a full cast, and I am such a sucker for audiobooks that are narrated by a full cast. It just made it so much, I feel like just so much better, because like when you're reading the physical copy, you are reading, you know, these interviews, but like I don't know, it's just so much better when you hear like actual different voices for each character, and they can like act out how the character's feeling. Well, that's true for all dialogue, so I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm just saying like it just makes each character feel more real when they all have their own unique voice. So yeah, those are my the favorite audiobooks of the year. But my number one favorite audiobook was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because again, it was a 5-star book and I really loved the narration. And yeah, favorite audiobook for sure, because I ate it up. And also it's because of the circumstance in which I listened to it. Again, this is very subjective. I listened to it the entire drive to my mother's house where I went for Thanksgiving, and then I listened to it on the entire drive back from my mother's house where I went for Thanksgiving, and it's about a 3-hour drive, so I just like listened to it for 3 hours straight, and then listened to it more while I was there, and then listened to it for 3 hours straight on my way back, and I had such a good time. So yeah, it's also because of the circumstances under which I listened to it, why it is my favorite. And then my last category I have for you is favorite series. Favorite book series, because I love reading book series. I'm always reading at least one series at a time. I'm currently reading the Throne of Glass series, and I started reading the Throne of Glass series in like May or June or something, so it's been a while, and I'm almost to Kingdom of Ash. I'm almost done with the tandem read, and I haven't really been reading any other series since I started it, so I really actually haven't read very many book series at all this year. So I was like, oh wait, like what book series did I even read? But I have 3 on here. The first one is Beyonders by Brandon Mole. The next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which I am rereading currently, because I actually have only read the first 2 books, and I'm waiting on Libby to give me the 3rd book, because I'm listening to them, because I read them 3 years ago. I read them physically. Yeah, there they are. They're on my shelf. But I read them physically 3 years ago, and I decided to reread them via audio. And so I'm currently in the middle of that, but it's so good, and it's like just as good as I remember. Love it. So that is a contender for my favorite series. And then the last series I have is Il était une fois par Sarah Mlinovsky, aka the Whatever After series. I have just been reading them in French. I read, I think, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th books in that series this year, and I just included it just because I didn't really have any other series to put on here as like nominations. I know I said I loved the last 2 books in the 5 Kingdom series, but since I don't like the first 3 books, I was like, I cannot put that as like a favorite series. It's just those 2 books that I really like. But I enjoyed the whatever after books that I read this year. They're so nostalgic for me because like I grew up reading them and they're like one of my first like book series I was obsessed with. It was like those and like the Rainbow Magic series. And so I've been rereading them in French to practice my French, and they're pretty good. They started to get a little repetitive after a while, but I thought the ones I read this year were pretty good, so I decided to include it in my nominations list. But I feel like it's pretty obvious which one I'm gonna pick to be my favorite series, which is Beyonders by Brandon Mole. I reread it this year. I should clarify that. I read Five Kingdoms for the first time this year, but I reread Beyonders because I read it in like middle school or like early high school, and I knew I loved it, and I reread it and I loved it again. And it's just so unique. Like the world is so unique, and like all the magic in it's so unique. And I think it's really hilarious how Jason is like the main character and doesn't do a single thing in like the entire book. I just think it's really funny. Or the entire series even. He does what, like one or two things, and the rest is just everyone around him doing everything for him, but he's like still the chosen one. I can't get over that. I know that's like not good, but I think it's hilarious. And I just love like the plot and the characters too much to not put Beyonders as my number one favorite series. Okay, those were my 2025 book awards. This was very fun to do. I've never done it before, and it just gives me an excuse to talk about books, which I love doing. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I kind of said everything already. Sorry if this video is really long. I have no concept of time. So I don't know how long this recording is, but hopefully it's not too long. And yeah, I hope the editing of this video is good because I don't know how to edit. So if it's bad, sorry. And I want you to know that I forgot my tripod at my apartment. So my current setup is my phone resting between a book and my hair bleach kit on top of my mom's trumpet case, on top of my swiveling desk chair. See? It swivels. So, yeah, I was upset when I realized that I didn't have my tripod. But we made it work. So, yay! Thank you for watching. I love rambling about books. And yeah, I like talking about books to people, but if they don't want to listen to me, I can just talk about it to a camera alone in my room. And that's what I did. So yeah, bye!